First story, The Empty Office, by Sarah Thompson. It was a bitterly cold winter night in downtown Chicago, and I found myself alone in the office, grappling with an urgent project that had to be completed before morning. The hum of the heating system provided a false sense of comfort as I typed away, surrounded by empty cubicles and dimly lit hallways. As the clock ticked past midnight, my weariness began to take its toll. The rhythmic clacking of my keyboard was the only sound that echoed through the vacant workspace. I decided to take a short break and headed to the break room for a cup of coffee, hoping the caffeine would jolt me awake. The break room, normally a place filled with laughter and camaraderie during the day, now felt eerily silent. As I poured the hot coffee into my mug, a sudden noise from the hallway caught my attention. It was a soft, muffled shuffle, as if someone were moving cautiously just out of sight. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me, attributing the noise to the settling of the old building. But as I returned to my desk, the shuffling sound persisted. I peered down the dimly lit corridor, feeling a chill run down my spine. "Hello?" I called out, but my voice seemed to get swallowed by the empty space around me. The silence that followed was suffocating. Unease settled in as I tried to convince myself that it was just the building's usual creaks and groans. With my coffee in hand, I resumed my work, but the atmosphere had changed. The air felt heavier, and the distant hum of the heating system now sounded more like a distant whisper. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. As the night progressed, the office became a labyrinth of shadows. Every flicker of the fluorescent lights cast strange shapes on the walls. The shuffling noise persisted, growing more distinct and purposeful. Panic set in as I realized that I might not be alone after all. Gathering my courage, I decided to investigate. The hallway seemed longer than before, and the shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own. I turned a corner, and there, at the far end, I saw a figure standing in the darkness. My heart raced, and I called out again. No response. I cautiously approached, my footsteps echoing in the emptiness. The figure remained still, its features obscured by the lack of light. As I drew closer, a sense of dread washed over me. The figure was facing away, but its posture was unnatural, almost inhuman. With trembling hands, I reached out to tap its shoulder, but before I could make contact, the figure turned abruptly. The pale face that stared back at me was expressionless, and its vacant eyes seemed to pierce through my soul. I stumbled backward, my mind racing. Without uttering a word, the figure began to shuffle away, disappearing into the darkness. Fear paralyzed me for a moment, but curiosity overcame it. I followed cautiously, my footsteps echoing louder with each step. The figure led me to the abandoned section of the office, where dusty desks and forgotten files lay untouched for years. As it reached the end of the corridor, it vanished into thin air. The only trace left was the lingering feeling of dread that clung to the stale air. I stumbled back to my desk, shaken to the core. The remainder of the night was a blur as I tried to focus on my work, my mind haunted by the encounter. When morning finally arrived, I stumbled out of the office, leaving the unsettling emptiness behind. To this day, I can't explain what I saw that night, but the memory of the shuffling figure lingers, a chilling reminder that sometimes, even in the familiar confines of an office, the darkness holds secrets that defy explanation. Second story, The Watcher in the Warehouse, by James Mitchell. It was a rainy autumn evening in Seattle, and I found myself alone in the vast expanse of the warehouse where I worked the night shift. The sound of raindrops tapping against the metal roof created a hypnotic rhythm, and the dim overhead lights cast long shadows across the towering shelves of stacked crates. My job involved managing inventory, and that night, I was tasked with cataloging a shipment of goods that had just arrived. The warehouse, usually bustling with activity during the day, now felt like a desolate labyrinth of towering crates and echoing footsteps. As I meticulously scanned barcodes and updated the inventory system, a sudden draft caught my attention. I glanced around, expecting to see a leak in the roof, but the source of the cold breeze eluded me. The warehouse seemed to groan with each gust of wind, creating an unsettling symphony of creaks and rattles. As the night wore on, the rhythmic tapping of rain on the roof became a haunting melody. My senses heightened, and every sound seemed amplified in the vast emptiness. It was then that I noticed a subtle sound beneath the symphony of rain, a soft, deliberate footstep. I froze, my hand gripping the barcode scanner. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, echoing through the cavernous space. My gaze darted between the towering shelves, searching for the source of the sound. But the warehouse held its secrets tightly, and my visibility was limited to the pools of dim light created by the overhead fixtures. Unable to shake the feeling that I was being watched, I continued my work, trying to dismiss the unease creeping into my mind. The footsteps, however, persisted, growing louder and more pronounced. Panic set in as I realized that the intruder, if it was indeed a person, was getting closer. I hesitated, debating whether to confront the unseen presence or retreat to the safety of the office. As I pondered my options, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness. Dressed in tattered clothes, the person moved with an eerie grace, their face obscured by the hood of a rain-soaked jacket. "Hey! Who's there?" I called out, my voice echoing through the warehouse. The figure halted, its head tilting slightly as if considering whether to respond. The unnerving silence that followed was broken only by the relentless drumming of rain on the roof. Without uttering a word, the figure turned and vanished into the shadows. My heart pounded as I pursued, the wet concrete floor beneath my shoes echoing my hurried footsteps. I rounded a corner, expecting to confront the mysterious intruder, but the warehouse stretched before me, empty and foreboding. As I stood in the echoing silence, the footsteps resumed, now behind me. I spun around, but there was no one in sight. The sensation of being watched intensified, and I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Fear gnawed at my resolve, urging me to flee. I sprinted back to the office, slamming the door behind me and locking it with trembling hands. Alone in the dimly lit room, I struggled to make sense of the inexplicable encounter. The footsteps continued outside, a haunting reminder that the watcher in the warehouse was still out there. With the first light of dawn, I emerged cautiously from the office, finding the warehouse empty and devoid of any signs of intrusion. The rain had subsided, leaving behind only the lingering echoes of a night filled with unsettling footsteps. To this day, I can't explain who or what roamed the warehouse that rainy night. The memory lingers, a chilling reminder that even in the familiar confines of a workplace, shadows can conceal mysteries that defy rational explanation. Third story, The Silent Factory, by Luca Rossi. It was a stifling summer night in Milan, and the factory where I worked the night shift loomed in the darkness, surrounded by an eerie silence. The air was thick with humidity, and the oppressive heat clung to every corner of the sprawling industrial complex. My job involved overseeing the production line, ensuring that the machines operated smoothly during the night hours. The rhythmic hum of the machinery was a constant companion, punctuating the stillness of the night like a mechanical heartbeat. As I monitored the production floor, a sudden power outage plunged the factory into darkness. Emergency lights flickered to life, casting a feeble glow that barely penetrated the shadows. Panic rippled through me as I fumbled for a flashlight, the oppressive silence broken only by the distant sound of my own rapid breaths. The emergency lights revealed a surreal scene. The machines stood still, frozen in mid-operation, and the factory floor was a labyrinth of looming silhouettes. I cursed under my breath, realizing that the outage had triggered a shutdown of the entire production line. As I navigated the dimly lit corridors to reach the backup generators, a strange sensation settled in. The air seemed charged with an otherworldly energy, and the usual ambient noises of the factory were conspicuously absent. No clanging of metal, no hum of machines, just an unsettling silence. The backup generators were located in a remote section of the factory, accessible only through a maze of narrow passages. As I ventured deeper into the labyrinth, the silence became oppressive, each footstep echoing louder than it should in the emptiness. A distant noise shattered the stillness, a faint, rhythmic tapping that seemed to emanate from the heart of the factory. I followed the sound, my flashlight cutting through the darkness like a thin blade. The tapping grew louder, morphing into a metallic clangor that reverberated through the empty corridors. As I approached the source, the air turned colder, and a sense of dread enveloped me. The noise led me to the assembly line, where a solitary figure stood, hunched over a conveyor belt. The dim light revealed a gaunt face, eyes vacant and fixed on the machinery. "Hey, what are you doing here?" I called out, but the figure remained oblivious to my presence. The rhythmic tapping continued, now synchronized with the ghostly dance of the assembly line. Fear clawed at my throat as I circled the figure, realizing that it was an employee who should have been off duty. No response. The figure's movements were mechanical, as if entranced by some unseen force. I hesitated, unsure of how to intervene. The atmosphere grew more surreal, the factory around us a canvas of flickering emergency lights and haunting shadows. Summoning my courage, I reached out to touch the employee's shoulder. The moment my fingers made contact, the figure jolted, snapping out of its trance. The vacant eyes now held a flicker of awareness, and the silence that had gripped the factory lifted. "What am I doing here?" the employee muttered, confusion etched across their face. I explained the situation, recounting the power outage and the strange behavior I had witnessed. The employee had no recollection of coming to the factory that night, and their disoriented state only deepened the mystery. Together, we restored power to the generators and brought the factory back to life. As the machines resumed their rhythmic hum, the sense of normalcy returned, but the memory of that silent night lingered. To this day, I can't explain the strange trance that overcame my colleague or the haunting silence that enveloped the factory. The incident remains a puzzle, a night when the machinery danced to an otherworldly rhythm, and the boundaries between reality and the unknown blurred in the oppressive stillness of a silent factory. Fourth story, The Unsettling Auction, by Emily Williams. It was a foggy autumn evening in London, and I found myself working the night shift at an old auction house nestled in the heart of the city. The creaking floorboards and dim, Flickering lights created an atmosphere that seemed to whisper of forgotten histories and untold stories. My responsibilities involved cataloging valuable artifacts for an upcoming auction. The pale glow of my desk lamp illuminated centuries-old paintings, antique furniture, and curious trinkets that seemed to gaze back at me with silent secrets. As the night wore on, the ticking of the clock echoed in the spacious halls, each sound amplifying the solitude. The air grew thick with anticipation as I examined an intricately carved wooden box that had recently arrived. Its surface was adorned with peculiar symbols and runes, and a subtle aura of mystery clung to it. My curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate the artifact further. As I opened the box, an otherworldly chill filled the room. I discovered a collection of ancient manuscripts, each page filled with esoteric illustrations and cryptic text. The discovery piqued my interest, but an unsettling feeling settled in as I delved into the forgotten knowledge within those pages. Suddenly, a distant sound interrupted my exploration, a low, guttural chant that seemed to emanate from the depths of the building. The flickering lights cast grotesque shadows on the walls, and the air vibrated with an otherworldly energy. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I cautiously followed the sound. The chant led me to the grand auction hall, its vastness accentuated by towering columns and a high vaulted ceiling. In the center of the room, a group of mysterious figures cloaked in shadows stood around an ornate pedestal. Their chant grew louder, resonating with an ominous power that sent a chill through my very core. As I approached, the figures ceased their incantation, and the room fell into an oppressive silence. The leader, adorned in a hooded robe, turned toward me with eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Without a word, they gestured toward the auctioneer's podium. Reluctantly, I ascended the steps, feeling the weight of their collective gaze upon me. The leader handed me a gavel, and with a gesture, signaled for me to continue the auction. The artifacts displayed on the stage were not the ordinary items I had catalogued earlier. They radiated an ancient power that I couldn't comprehend. The bidding began, but the participants were unlike any usual auction-goers. Their faces were obscured by masks, and their whispers carried an unsettling resonance. With each successful bid, the artifacts seemed to pulse with newfound energy, and an otherworldly force seemed to envelop the entire hall. As the auction progressed, I felt a growing sense of unease. The artifacts, now in the possession of the masked bidders, emanated a palpable darkness. It was as if the very essence of the items had been awakened, and their power lingered in the air like a haunting melody. As the final artifact found its new owner, the figures in the shadows dispersed, leaving me alone on the silent stage. The room, once filled with an otherworldly energy, returned to its quiet, somber state. I descended the steps, my mind reeling from the surreal experience. The next morning, the auction house appeared unchanged, as if the events of the night had been a mere figment of my imagination. The artifacts, however, were gone, leaving behind an emptiness that echoed with the lingering mysteries of that unsettling auction. To this day, I question the reality of that foggy night and the arcane auction that unfolded in the shadows. The artifacts may have vanished, but the haunting memories of that spectral event continue to linger, a testament to the thin veil that separates the mundane from the mystical. Fifth story, The Whispering Windmill, by Henrik Andersen. It was a clear summer night in Amsterdam, and the windmill I worked at stood tall against the starlit sky. As the lone night shift worker, my task was to ensure the smooth operation of the ancient machinery that creaked and groaned in the gentle breeze. The windmill, a historic landmark with blades that sliced through the air with rhythmic precision, seemed to come alive at night. The city lights below shimmered in the distance as I climbed the narrow staircase to the upper levels. The wooden gears and rotating mechanisms echoed with a symphony of mechanical sounds. As I reached the top floor, where the massive blades loomed just beyond the windows, a soft whispering sound caught my attention. At first, I dismissed it as the rustling of leaves or the wind playing tricks on my ears. But the whisper persisted, weaving through the gaps in the ancient wood. I approached one of the windows, squinting into the darkness beyond. The city below was silent, and the canal waters mirrored the starry night. The whisper, however, seemed to have a source within the windmill itself. As I descended through the levels, the whispering grew louder, transforming into a melodic hum that seemed to vibrate through the very structure of the windmill. The origin of the sound eluded me, and a sense of unease settled in as I navigated the labyrinthine corridors. The hum led me to the basement, a dimly lit chamber where the gears connected with the foundation of the windmill. The whispering reached a crescendo, and I realized it wasn't just a sound but a language, an ancient, incomprehensible dialect that resonated with an otherworldly energy. In the center of the basement, a shadowy figure stood, facing a centuries-old mural depicting the windmill in all its glory. The figure, dressed in tattered clothing, seemed oblivious to my presence. Their hands traced the contours of the mural, and with each touch, the whispering intensified. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice swallowed by the haunting symphony of sound. The figure turned slowly, revealing eyes that gleamed with an ethereal light. Without uttering a word, they extended a hand, inviting me to join them in deciphering the ancient language that echoed through the windmill's bones. Reluctantly, I reached out, and as our hands touched, a surge of memories flooded my mind. I saw glimpses of a bygone era, the windmill standing witness to centuries of stories and secrets. The whispering, now a harmonious chorus, revealed tales of love, loss, and the passage of time. The figure and I stood in communion with the windmill's history, the boundaries between past and present blurred in the mystical energy that surrounded us. As the first light of dawn painted the sky, the whispering subsided, and the figure vanished like a wisp of smoke. Alone in the basement, I marveled at the ancient mural, now vibrant with newfound life. The windmill, once a silent sentinel, now seemed to resonate with the echoes of the stories it held within. The memories lingered, etched into the very fabric of the windmill, a testament to the mysterious connection between the past and the present. To this day, I cherish the enigmatic encounter in the heart of the Amsterdam windmill. The whispering, though faded, continues to echo in my memories, a reminder that even in the quietest corners of history, the wind carries tales that can only be heard by those willing to listen. Sixth story: The Subterranean Symphony, by Gabriela Rodriguez. In the heart of Budapest, a sprawling network of subterranean tunnels housed an old brewery where I worked the night shift. The dank, dimly lit corridors echoed with the distant dripping of water, creating a haunting ambience that seemed to reverberate through the very foundations of the city. My responsibilities involved overseeing the maintenance of the aging machinery that churned out barrels of beer during the daylight hours. The rhythmic clanking of pipes and the hum of generators became familiar companions in the cavernous depths below ground. However, one fateful night, an inexplicable event unfolded that shattered the routine of the subterranean brewery. As I made my rounds through the labyrinthine tunnels, a dissonant melody reached my ears, an otherworldly symphony that seemed to emanate from the very walls. I paused, straining to identify the source of the haunting music that played in discordant harmony with the ambient sounds of the underground. The subterranean symphony led me deeper into the tunnels, the air growing colder as I approached an abandoned chamber. The entrance, concealed by years of neglect, opened into a vast, forgotten space adorned with murals depicting scenes from an era long past. The music intensified, its origin now clear. The chamber itself seemed to resonate with an ethereal power. In the center of the chamber stood a grand piano, untouched by time and surrounded by a soft, luminescent glow. The keys moved with an unseen force, producing a haunting melody that echoed through the subterranean expanse. I stood in awe, captivated by the inexplicable performance. As I approached the piano, the music changed, shifting from a mournful tune to a lively composition that seemed to tell a story of forgotten celebrations and revelry. The keys danced beneath invisible fingers, and the chamber pulsed with an energy that transcended the confines of the mundane world. Suddenly, a figure materialized beside the piano, a woman dressed in an elegant gown that seemed to ripple like liquid moonlight. Her eyes, pools of darkness, met mine with a knowing gaze. Without a word, she gestured for me to join her. I hesitated, my rational mind warring with the allure of the subterranean symphony. As I touched the piano keys, the woman and I became one with the music, our movements guided by an unseen force. The melodies told tales of joy and sorrow, love and loss, weaving a tapestry of emotions that transcended the boundaries of time. The underground chamber transformed into a spectral ballroom, its walls adorned with the phantoms of long-forgotten dancers. The subterranean symphony reached its climax, and the woman beside me faded into the shadows, leaving me alone in the silent aftermath. As I emerged from the chamber, the tunnels returned to their usual disquiet. The brewery machinery resumed its mechanical hum, and the subterranean symphony lingered as a fading memory. The hidden chamber, however, remained a testament to the mystical forces that dwelled beneath the surface of the city. To this day, I question the reality of that surreal night in the Budapest tunnels. The subterranean symphony, though a fleeting encounter, left an indelible mark on my soul, a reminder that even in the depths of the earth, echoes of the past can manifest in ways that defy explanation. 7th story. The Enigmatic Library, by Alessandro Bianchi. In the heart of Rome, an ancient library stood as a repository of knowledge spanning centuries. As the night librarian, I found solace in the quiet halls, surrounded by the musty scent of old books and the soft glow of antique lamps. Little did I know that the enigmatic library held secrets beyond the written word. One night, as I catalogued ancient manuscripts, a soft rustling sound caught my attention. The library, usually silent during the night shift, seemed to come alive with a whispering breeze that tousled the pages of the tomes. I dismissed it as a draft, attributing the mysterious rustling to the age of the manuscripts. As the night progressed, the rustling evolved into a melodic hum, an otherworldly cadence that echoed through the shelves. The library itself seemed to vibrate with an unseen energy. I followed the enchanting melody, navigating the labyrinth of books that housed the accumulated wisdom of generations. The source of the ethereal music led me to a secluded section of the library, where a dusty tome lay open on a lectern. The pages turned as if moved by invisible fingers, and the hum resonated from the very core of the ancient book. Intricate illustrations adorned the pages, depicting scenes that transcended the limitations of time. As I gazed at the illustrations, the images came to life. A tapestry of stories unfolded before my eyes. I witnessed moments of triumph and tragedy, love and betrayal, all woven into the fabric of the enigmatic library. The characters in the illustrations seemed aware of my presence, their eyes meeting mine with a shared recognition. Lost in the mesmerizing tales, I failed to notice the library itself transforming. The shelves stretched and curved, creating a vast expanse that seemed to defy the architectural confines of the building. The musty air gave way to the scent of blooming flowers, and the soft glow of antique lamps was replaced by the warm light of an otherworldly moon. I stood in the midst of a celestial library, an expansive realm that transcended the boundaries of the physical world. The characters from the illustrations materialized around me, their presence tangible yet ephemeral. They gestured for me to join them in the dance of knowledge, where stories unfolded like constellations in the night sky. As I moved through the celestial library, the characters imparted fragments of their stories, each revelation adding to the cosmic tapestry. The enigmatic library became a sanctuary where the boundaries between reality and fiction blurred, and the pursuit of knowledge transcended the constraints of time. When the first light of dawn kissed the horizon, the celestial library faded, and I found myself back in the familiar halls of the ancient Roman library. The dusty tome on the lectern remained closed, its secrets once again veiled in the written word. To this day, I wonder if the enigmatic library was a mere dream or a glimpse into a realm where stories come alive. The melodies of that cosmic sanctuary linger in my memory, a testament to the mystical forces that dwell within the quiet halls of ancient libraries. 8th story, The Haunting Gallery, by Isabella Martinez. Nestled in the artistic heart of Florence, I worked as a night custodian at a centuries-old art gallery that housed priceless masterpieces. The gallery, usually teeming with daytime visitors, transformed into a haunting realm of shadows and silent canvases as night fell. One evening, as I meticulously cleaned the marble floors, a soft murmur caught my attention. The gallery, devoid of any living souls, seemed to echo with the distant whispers of a conversation. I dismissed it as an auditory illusion, attributing the phenomenon to the age of the building. As I moved through the dimly lit corridors, the murmurs grew more distinct. The paintings lining the walls appeared to come alive with an otherworldly glow, casting eerie shadows that danced across the canvases. I hesitated before a particularly captivating portrait, its subject a woman with eyes that seemed to follow my every movement. The murmur coalesced into a poignant dialogue, revealing snippets of the subjects' lives captured in the paintings. The gallery became a spectral stage where the figures in the portraits engaged in conversations that transcended the confines of time. Their stories, though painted on canvas, seemed to breathe with life. As I continued my duties, the haunting gallery unfolded its enigmatic narrative. I witnessed love stories and tales of tragedy, heard laughter and felt the weight of unspoken sorrows. The whispers of the painted figures echoed through the silent corridors, creating an immersive tableau of emotions. In the heart of the gallery, I encountered a self-portrait of the artist, an old, forgotten master who seemed to transcend the boundaries between his creation and the observer. His eyes held a knowing gaze as if he, too, was a participant in the spectral conversations that unfolded within the haunting gallery. The night wore on, and the whispers gradually faded as the first light of dawn kissed the edges of the paintings. The gallery returned to its silent state, the figures frozen in timeless contemplation. As I exited the building, the echoes of the spectral conversations lingered, leaving me with an indelible sense of having witnessed a secret, unseen world within the artistry of the ages. To this day, I wonder if the haunting gallery was a manifestation of the stories embedded in the art, or a glimpse into a dimension where the souls of painted subjects continue their eternal dialogue. The spectral whispers remain etched in my memory, a testament to the boundless power of art to transcend the boundaries of time and space. Ninth story. The Cryptic Observatory, by Mikhail Ivanov. High atop a mountain in the Ural region of Russia, I worked the night shift at an isolated observatory, surrounded by the vast expanse of the cosmos. The clear night skies offered a breathtaking view of stars, planets, and distant galaxies. However, one fateful night, the observatory revealed its cryptic secrets. As I monitored the celestial bodies through the telescope, a subtle distortion in the atmosphere caught my attention. The stars seemed to flicker with an irregular rhythm, and the space between galaxies shimmered with an otherworldly energy. I dismissed it as a mere anomaly, perhaps a trick of the atmosphere. As the night deepened, the distortion intensified. The celestial bodies pulsated with an ethereal light, and the observatory itself seemed to vibrate with an unseen force. I cautiously adjusted the telescope, trying to discern the origin of the cosmic phenomenon. Suddenly, a brilliant burst of light enveloped the observatory, transporting me to a surreal realm that existed beyond the boundaries of known space. The mountains, the telescope, and the observatory vanished, replaced by an alien landscape where the laws of physics appeared to be suspended. In this cryptic observatory, I encountered beings of light, ethereal entities that communicated through a language of colors and vibrations. Their presence was both comforting and disconcerting, their forms shifting and morphing like celestial constellations. The beings guided me through the cosmic expanse, revealing hidden truths about the universe. They showed me glimpses of alternate realities, cosmic events that transcended human comprehension, and the interconnectedness of all celestial bodies. The cryptic observatory became a gateway to a dimension where the fabric of reality seemed malleable. As the first light of dawn approached, the brilliant burst of light returned, transporting me back to the familiar confines of the observatory. The distortion in the atmosphere subsided, and the night sky resumed its ordinary appearance. I stood alone, pondering the cryptic revelations bestowed upon me by the celestial beings. To this day, I question the nature of the cryptic observatory, a gateway to realms beyond the known universe or a product of an overactive imagination influenced by the cosmic wonders above. The memories of that transcendent night linger, a testament to the boundless mysteries that await those who gaze into the vastness of the cosmos. 10th story. The Whispering Lighthouse, by Olivia Carter. Perched on the rugged cliffs of Cornwall, a centuries-old lighthouse stood sentinel over the tempestuous sea. As the lone keeper working the night shift, I found solace in the rhythmic sweep of the lighthouse beam cutting through the darkness. Little did I know that the ancient structure held a secret, a haunting melody that echoed through the night. One stormy night, as the waves crashed against the cliffs below, a soft melody carried by the wind reached my ears. The haunting notes seemed to be born from the very elements, whistling through the howling wind, dancing with the raindrops, and resonating with the booming thunder. I strained to discern the origin of the ethereal tune. As I climbed the spiral staircase to the lantern room, the melody grew more distinct. The beam of the lighthouse revealed intricate carvings on the walls, a maritime tapestry that told tales of sailors lost at sea, ancient navigators, and the ever-watchful presence of the lighthouse itself. The carvings seemed to come alive with the haunting melody, as if the very stones held the memories of centuries. Upon reaching the lantern room, I discovered a peculiar instrument, an old sea shanty box, weathered by the relentless sea breeze. Its keys moved on their own accord, producing the ghostly melody that resonated through the night. The sea shanty box seemed to channel the spirits of sailors long gone, encapsulating their stories within its haunting tunes. Compelled by an otherworldly force, I joined the spectral performance, allowing the sea shanty box to guide my fingers. The melody transformed into a symphony of voices, whispers of sailors singing tales of maritime adventures, distant lands, and the eternal dance between sea and sky. The lighthouse itself seemed to sway in rhythm with the ethereal music. As the night wore on, the sea shanty box led me to the precipice of the cliff, where the waves crashed with a ferocity that matched the crescendo of the spectral performance. The ancient stones beneath me vibrated with the energy of the haunting melody, and the lighthouse beam painted a mesmerizing dance on the turbulent waters below. With the first light of dawn, the sea shanty box fell silent, and the storm began to subside. The carvings on the walls returned to their stoic stillness, and the lighthouse resumed its role as a silent guardian. I stood at the edge of the cliff, the echoes of the spectral sea shanty lingering in the salt-laden air. To this day, I wonder if the haunting melody of the whispering lighthouse was a manifestation of the maritime spirits, or a symphony created by the elements themselves. The carvings on the lighthouse walls stand as a testament to the stories etched in the stones, waiting to be heard by those who dare to listen to the secrets of the sea. Thank you for joining us for the whole video. That video you see on screen is one of my favorite. Check it out. If you've enjoyed these horror stories, show your support by hitting the subscribe button. Did this tale send chills down your spine? Let me know in the comments.